Welcome to the Business After Hours, where the ties loosen, the suit relax, and we talk business without the boardroom. Grab your favorite drink, kick back, and let's dive into the world of business after hours.
All right, welcome back to the Business After Hours podcast. Here with my co-host Jared and our guest Anthony. How you gentlemen doing today?
Good.
Good.
Great,
doing well.
It's almost Thanksgiving, right? Can't even believe it.
Happy
Can't wait.
Thanksgiving.
Can't wait to eat.
Right.
Yeah.
Do either of you do the Friendsgiving thing bullshit?
Yeah, we're doing that this year.
You're doing that this year?
We used to. We're gonna have we live in Noe Valley, San Francisco. I don't know if y'all, it's right next to the Mission. So we're gonna host a lot of people from out of town. And then have some family over. So I'm excited about that. I'm not cooking the turkey this year, so that's even better.
Great. Well, Anthony, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background?
Yeah, I'm I guess if I were to identify as anything, an Army combat veteran, and then after that, an American or maybe American Army combat veteran. I'm not really quite sure. I'm originally from San Antonio, Texas. I'm a Army brat myself. My father was in the military, which is, I guess, pretty key to my path. Originally from the south side of San Antonio, and then he actually used the military to move up and out, as most people tend to do. It's probably the best mechanism for upward mobility that I can think of. And because I am in the hiring space, we do career pathing and internal hiring better than anybody. But that's another topic. But yeah, I ended up. I was born in Germany. We moved back to San Antonio in '89. Graduated St. Mary's in San Antonio in '99, and then found myself as a medical evacuation officer in the United States Army. Honestly, I mean, I chose that path mainly because I thought I'd get to wear a flight suit, and I thought I might get a little luckier with the ladies. Unfortunately, none of that played out while I was in the military. But yeah, that pretty much set the stage for where I am today. I've got 2 combat tours under my belt, a total of 22 months. My last tour in Iraq, I was responsible for 90 personnel, flight engineers, flight medics, aviators. I was also an aviator. I got 1,200 hours in a helicopter, 500 plus hours combat time, and I'm also a pilot. I was a pilot in command. Within that last 11-month tour, we medically evacuated over 6,400 patients and flew over 5,000 combat missions. A lot of people don't realize how much MEDEVAC, or what we refer to it as, dust off. So it's one hell of a meat grinder. You don't realize how effed up you are until, I don't know, a couple of years after either getting away from the mission or getting out.
Sure.
I ended up getting out of the Army in 2007. I got sent to be an instructor at the officer basic course after my last tour to Iraq. I was pissed off about that because I was institutionalized to combat at the point. I showed up and I was like, "Hey man, send me to Afghanistan. I don't know if I can do this shit." And he was like, "Hey man, just give it a couple of months, and if you don't want to be here, I'll do that." And fortunately, my sister was my roommate, and I think she had the foresight to realize that her brother was going to be pretty fucked up after doing that stuff. And I was self-medicating. I was drunk, going on post at 5:30 in the morning. I could still run pretty goddamn fast at that age, inebriated. But yeah, man, I was just trying to cope with it. One point was it broke my heart that we were sending these men and women off to do kind of in the neighborhood of what I did. The op tempo is nothing like MEDEVAC. I'd argue that the 160 Assault can't hold a candle to dust off, because kick the tires, light the fires. We don't know where we're going. We might have a call sign and a grid coordinate for sure. And I'm happy to debate that all day long with my SOAR buddies. But yeah, man, it just broke my heart knowing that they were going to go off and do that, and some of them wouldn't come back. And then the other component to it was Man, I just missed the fucking rush. Like,
Sure.
there's nothing. I mean, mind you, I take my Prozac every day. I talk to my VA psychologist once a week. I talk to Anchor Management once a month. I moved out here primarily because I could self-medicate off marijuana. I grew 6 plants this year. It's a journey afterwards. And yeah, so had all that going on and really wanted to go back. But fortunately, this one morning around 3 a.m., my sister was like, heard a bunch of noise and she saw my ass underneath the garbage disposal trying to remove it drunk, and because it got clogged, and the front loader of my new dryer went out, the internet went out, my world's crashing down at me at 3 a.m. I'm hammered. And she was just like, hey man, we can't do anything for you, you need to go get help. And I could see the fear in her eyes, because she was like, man, I'm afraid you're going to go off on somebody. I don't, she saw me kick me in. She saw me, my dad saw me put a fist through their drywall at their house. Scared the shit out of my dad. Yeah, so that morning I called in and I was like, hey, and I was supposed to be out in the field in like 2 hours out at Camp Bullis. Yeah, I called in and I was like, hey, I need to go into sick call. And so I went and just talked to a psychologist. At the time, you get grounded if you did that. And so I was like, man, can you guys not put this on my record? And they didn't. And within that first hour, man, I was crying sober, and then I wanted more. So I went back the next day, and then 2 weeks later, my boss was like, hey man, I found it. You can be the OPSO at the unit that's in Afghanistan. I was like, man, I'm getting out of the Army, dude. So yeah, I made the decision to get out of the Army, and that was really kind of the next stage of the struggle, because this was back when, I mean, I was probably one of the first chalk of like people my age to get out of the military after seeing that type of combat. Yeah, so yeah, I ended up getting out, talked to some people. They said you should go to business school. I didn't know shit from Shinola, so I said, okay, I'll apply to some business school classes. I ended up getting, or courses. I ended up getting it accepted at Cornell, not really knowing what the hell that meant. And drove up there, almost turned around twice, and was in PTSD overdrive for the first year and a half. I got a full-time offer doing M&A stuff after my internship, and I turned it down because I didn't want to mess around with spreadsheets. And then I was thinking, hey man, end of index, my mission's over here. And I stopped going to class. And yeah, I dropped like 15 pounds, I guess. And my roommate called my mom after a month, and my mom was like, hey man, just go in and start taking the medication, go talk to somebody. She's scared shitless, and she's like, I'm flying up tomorrow. And yeah, I went to go talk to one of my professors who's a former Israeli officer. And I was like, just stopping by to let him know I was going to take the test the next day, but it wasn't going to be because I didn't give a shit. I was just dealing with something, and I knew I wouldn't perform well. And he was like, hey man, come in here, man. Shut the door, with this cool accent. And I shut the door, and he's like, sit the fuck down. So I'm like, who the fuck is this motherfucker? I'm going to sit down. I want to see where this shit is going.
Right.
I'm like, I mean, I don't know. I was probably a little bit out of my mind. I was completely out of my mind. And he's like, dude, you got out of the fucking Army and you came here? Are you a fucking idiot? And I'm like, yeah, I think so, man. I mean, he's talking to me the way that I was used to being talked to a certain degree, and
yeah,
he was like, man, like what are you going to do? And I'm like, well, my mom's flying up today. I'm just going to drop out, man. He was like, you don't need to drop out. You don't get recycled here. You can come back in 2 years. You can take a leave of absence. I'm going to go talk to the dean. I'm going to talk to all your team members. I'm going to talk to your professors. You're going to get through this. We're going to carry you across the line, man. And then you can come back in 3 years if you want. And I think that conversation prevented, the worst, because, I was suicidal at the time, which goes without saying, I think, on the description of things, which has been a part of, my life since then. I go through these ebbs and flows. Yeah, but man, I stayed. The Prozac got in me. I went to Hawaii for Christmas break, and I remember thinking in January, like, man, this is the closest to normal I've felt since 2002, 3, I guess, before I went over. And yeah, so I started getting better, and then I went back to the school, and I realized, oh, I should become a serial entrepreneur. So, I knew that corporate America wasn't for me.
Sure.
I think corporate America is awesome. It's great, but I just knew that based off of who I was and probably my disability that I needed to have a lot of flexibility, and there's a price to that, my credit shot and all that other stuff. But
Right.
After a failed business and doing this for almost 15 years, that's not the case anymore. So I'm pretty fired up to say that we're making sales. I believe we have a product now that's superior to everything in industry, to include companies that we all know of. Maybe, one or two in the FANG companies. And yeah, man, it's all because of Dust Off. That's I guess my conviction is still, my past.
Sure.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's a little bit or a lot probably
No, you're
about
good.
who I am, but
You're
I
definitely
figured
good.
I'd, just regurgitate all over y'all real quick.
You're fine.
Do you mind going into a little bit more detail on the product that you offer, or what products you're offering?
Oh yeah, 100%. So back in 2015, I approached my dad, who's a retired lieutenant colonel. He was a former AG officer in the military, which basically means for what he did under the Cold War days, he was a consultant. He was field artillery, and then he went to be doing business things, and then they sent him through an organizational effectiveness program in 1984. 83 in Monterey, California. And it was to inject change, transformation, new leadership development, basically reorg the entire Army from the core all the way down to the team, with the belief that if we instill this new way of thinking, we're going to realign the military. Because if you're familiar with history, the military was pretty jacked up after the Vietnam conflict wound down. And obviously after wars wind down, you gotta rebuild, and you got to change a little bit, because combat is different than peacetime. So he got a skill set that maybe 100 people in the world got, and he went and did that. He gets out in 93. He's the director of HR at HEB Grocery. He becomes the director of dairy operations for HEB Grocery. And he's like, screw this, man. I want to go be a consultant and do my own thing in South Texas. So he has that background. I approached him in 2015, and I'm like, man, I've been writing these resumes since 2007. Is there a way that we could automate this? And he was like, yeah, we just have to manually translate every position in the military and apply competency statements and skills to every position in the military.
Right.
In layman terms, we had to build a skills taxonomy and competency hierarchy. We did that. It took us 5 years to build. We translate every military position in the U.S. Army. We just completed Space Force, which allows a veteran and now any job seeker to say, hey, I was a schoolhouse instructor. That translates to leadership, learning, development instructor in the private sector. You'd be a great fit to do L&D work within an enterprise. I've written curriculum. I've administered curriculum. I've trained, several hundreds of students. I could definitely do that. I didn't know that I could do that as an aviator, but that's something that I did for 17 months before I left the military. So it's creating, that transparency for people in industry. But then it's also saying, hey, I was a cashier. I developed these leadership skills as a cashier, because you don't need to be a leader to develop leadership skills.
Correct.
I was the manager of a McDonald's. You want to hire that person all day long because they know how to deal with ambiguity, and they're going to beat a recently graduated college student or somebody 29 years old any day of the week.
Well, yeah.
They don't have a college degree. So we're not anti-education at PurePost. We just believe that skills and work experience, whether that you be the captain of the debate team in high school, or wide receiver on the football team, or, number 4 person on the golf team. Those are all skills that equate to working currency. And so what we believe at PurePost is you want the complete aggregate of the professional, because you don't know if they acquired something from this weird, obscure thing that is weird to you that can actually be applied at the middle or the high level of the organization. And so what I mean by that is not all officers and NCOs are created equal. You don't want me coming out of the military to be working at the enterprise level doing business analysis work. After an MBA, yeah, but not before. You want a military intelligence, probably E5 or E6, who's been through 18 months of this awesome military intelligence training where they're learning how to brief generals and they're learning how to aggregate all this data and make sense of it. And by the way, most of these people's IQ is around 130. You want those people to be working in the back office. And again, they don't have a college degree, and nor do they need one. And so that's the same case with other careers out there in the private sector. It's not just the military. And so what we do is we bring transparency and we level the playing field for job seekers. And specifically what we do to make money is we can go into an organization, we can onboard your entire workforce into our system, and we can let you know who would be good for promotion, who would be good for a lateral transfer, who needs to take this training. We can normalize curriculum. And the only reason why we can do that is because we built all this data based in the military. We had a belief that if we built a skills taxonomy and competency hierarchy rooted in the military, which is rooted in leadership, we measure on leadership interpersonal skills, leadership technical skills, and leadership conceptual. Those are all durable. And then we measure proficiencies. I'm proficient in Gmail. That's not a skill. That's a proficiency. I am no longer proficient in flying a helicopter. You do not want me to fly a helicopter. You don't want to hire me to do that. However, if you want somebody who's a continuous learner, over here, man, all day long. If you want somebody who understands products and processes, I can do that. So can an E1, so can an E5. They understand products and process, what they're doing in the military. So can somebody who's working at McDonald's if they understand the skills and where those skills were derived. So, yeah, we're focused on internal hiring. It's big blue ocean for us. Nobody can touch us in that space. And so that's what we're focused on in 2025. We can do top of funnel. We can build APIs for your job board so that you have more transparency on whatever professional you're looking at. But we are just going to swim in that big blue ocean, because that's how I believe we ultimately win, because I'm at the point now where I've been bootstrapping this so long, I got a chip on my shoulder and I want to put companies out of business because I just think that they're doing it wrong. Like, people are making money off this problem rather than solving it. So that's more or less where we come from.
Yeah, absolutely.
So are you a job seeking board, or do you solely just work with military personnel?
No, we actually are. We can help everybody. We can take your organization of technical professionals and let you know who needs to get promoted to be the director of engineering, or should at least be looked at for that position. Because, oh, by the way, they were that McDonald's manager before they did that, so they know how to lead, they know how to manage.
Okay,
They
so
know
you
how to
come inside
they can roll their sleeves up and do the work for somebody.
Okay.
See, that's what we're missing in the economy. I don't believe that there's a skills gap. That's bullshit. We have the people in this country to do the work that needs to be done. We just need to understand who they are, and we also need to get our heads out of our ass on this whole, you have to have a college degree, and you have to come from a certain demographic in order to be considered for an opportunity. That's what we're fighting against. So if we win, go ahead.
Yeah, even on a practical, I've been in the mortgage industry for well over 20 years. I've been laid off for 2 years now from that industry, and there was a mortgage company that was hiring basically start over, entry level, had to have a bachelor's degree to get $17 an hour, doing exactly what I'm doing, entry level underwriting. So I applied. I was like, I'll start over. I don't care. I know I can build myself back up, so I'm fine. Because I didn't have that bachelor's degree, even though I have 15 years of doing the job, they turned me down.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we hired the last developer we brought on, and we walked the walk. I mean, he came out of the Army as a dust-off aviator, learned how to code, and now he's doing all of our AI stuff because he can learn how to do that stuff.
Right.
Like if you're smart and you got the right skills, you're going to figure it out.
Always.
Exactly.
Agree. So you work with the corporations to help internal hire.
Correct. 100%. We work with the corporations to help with internal hiring. So for example, we just partnered with Webster Bank. We're going to be working with them for top of funnel because that's what they originally came to us for. So we're not pivoting, we're just expanding, but we're focused on the internal hiring solution, and we'll be onboarding their L&D team and their internal hiring team into the solution as well. And then we'll figure out, what ERG we're going to onboard first. Another example where this works, and I won't mention the organization because we're still working through it with them, is if you have a set of, say, 3,000 veterans or 4,000 veterans who are wage workers, and you want to prove the case for them to be salaried workers, we can do that for you because we can provide that data so that you can roll it up to whoever you need to show to them that, hey, we're not only helping you hire people, but we're now a cost center because we're eliminating time to source these people. And the best source of talent are the people that are within your organization all day long. And so we're talking to companies that aren't planning on doing any external hiring in 2025. They want to figure out how to move the people up who are in these wage positions. Many of them specifically veterans, because as I described, we just intrinsically come out of the military with all these awesome soft skills because, it's the one field of work where you get fired immediately if you're a leader. People slip through the cracks, but
yeah. So how in today's society, because obviously we've been seeing for the last 2 years massive layoffs. So now you have what seems to be a growing consensus with employees that, I've seen on LinkedIn, people been this guy the other day, he kind of went viral on LinkedIn he'd been at GM for 38 years and they laid him off. And so now you've got this growing emphasis of, well, companies aren't loyal to us, so why should we be loyal to companies? How much of that are you combating?
Well, that's why these companies want to work with us, because they need to figure out how to ensure the loyalty stays, or they need to fight to get that loyalty. That's really what the people that we're talking. So you're getting into pipeline now. That's the other thing. We're just being really focused on who we're talking to. I don't have I'm the sales guy, and I work with the CEO of a publicly traded staffing organization who is helping me with sales. And we just brought on a VP of one of the FANG companies who work directly in skills. And so I got these two professionals who are being very targeted with who we reach out to. So the funnel's tight. I'm not concerned about the funnel. It's just, we got to, when we're starting out, we got to talk to people that have a serious pain, as you described. They need to ensure that they can maintain the brand that they have with keeping their employees happy, and or they need to get out of that hole that they're in.
Right.
In fact, if you don't fit that demographic, and we don't do that on discovery, then you're going to fall to, okay, you're going to be in the second bucket, because when somebody's really got a pain, they're going to be all over a solution if they think that it works.
Sure.
And there's only 8 of us over here.
Okay. No, that's good. I like that, because I feel like that's been especially in corporate America, is something big, because obviously our parents' generation, one job, 40 years, retired, you're good. Not today. Not today.
And that's coming back now, though.
I hope so.
I hope so too. It's and that's the thing that people don't. One thing that I'm starting to preach now is career pathing. The military does better than anybody, man. That's why people stay in the military. I was a 67J. I knew what I was going to do if I stayed in for 20 years. Right. That gave me so much comfort and security, and so And that's what our parents had. So I think we're realizing that we need to go back to that. Yeah, we've had this, we're still within this revolution. It'll probably shake out in like 100 years or so. But I mean, the internet has only been around since really 95. And
Right.
that's not a long time. My first software company was in 2011. That's mind blowing to me now when I look back at it.
Right.
So, I mean, there's still a lot of opportunity. But what people are learning is job hopping, I think is not going to be, I don't believe in it anymore. I don't see it. It doesn't make sense to me.
I mean, I would hope that it would come to an end, because I think you have a lot of people that I would be one of them that would love to grow with a company and stay with a company long term, and know that my family's secure too financially, but they're so quick to lay off
Yeah.
that it's like hard to get into that mindset when you go, like, especially during the COVID years, everybody was massively hiring, and then once COVID was over, everybody laid off all those hires. So it's, you know what I mean? So it's one of the things where I think corporate America definitely has some issues that need to be worked out for
Well,
sure.
and that's the other thing. People are getting laid off, which means that you really need to make sure that you have the right face in the right place, because that
Mhm.
professional needs to be able to leverage skills that weren't required to leverage back in the day. And it's not, one of the things that frustrates me is AI is not going to replace anybody. It's just going to enhance people. It's going to create more longevity for people like you, like the three of us, because we have all this wealth of knowledge. And now if we've got that and we're typing in the right question to ask, whatever you're utilizing, or we're taking a data set, as in our case. That's the other thing. We don't advertise that we're AI, but we're deeply AI, because we've got this massive layer of data that nobody has. And then we're indexing ONET, the National Labor Exchange, military or Career One Source, the Australian skills taxonomy. And then we have Gemini and OpenAI and Elasticsearch and pick whatever else engine underneath that. So it doesn't matter what engine is in there. It's just like, an engine in a helicopter. A Rolls Royce will do just as good as a General Electric's.
Right.
The Blackhawk is the thing. PurePost is the thing. And we're a data company. It's not obvious, but we have our data in spades compared to everybody else because we're anchored to the military. It's rooted in leadership. I can talk all day long on why that's important. Nobody's done that. People just have scraped the web, and garbage in is going to be garbage out.
Sure.
And I like that, because that's good for me.
Yeah.
I don't have to compete against that right now. But I mean, that's a competitive advantage that we won't have forever.
No, that makes sense. Well, Anthony, it's definitely been interesting
Absolutely.
talking to you for sure. Go ahead and give your company like a infomercial about your company and a pitch. That way, if anybody sees this, maybe get you some business.
Well, if you're a job seeker, you don't need to know how to write a resume. Just go to purepost.co. You'll have a resume within 10 minutes. That's a Cornell MBA resume. And you can upload it to any applicant tracking system or job board and all that other stuff. But more importantly, you'll have transparency of your skills and your competencies, and you'll be able to speak truth to that and live in the future. And quite honestly, take care of yourself. I mean, we're trying to help people learn how to fish here. We're not trying to handhold people. So you're going to gain a massive wealth just by utilizing our solution. There's dream job reports in there where we leverage AI. We're able to say, hey, if you want to be a sales rep and you are doing X in the private sector, X in the military, here's the gap you got to fill. And here's Career One Source, or here's Coursera. You can go fill those gaps. We do job matching too. So because we have a partnership with the National Labor Exchange, we receive 3 million jobs from 300,000 organizations weekly. So on a daily basis, you're going to understand what jobs you match to out in the economy. So there's no second guessing, and then you can go take action. For the employer, we're going to help you scale internal hiring at a clip that you would have never imagined. No longer will your recruiters be like, oh shit, I didn't look at these 2 jobs that I need to have candidates for tomorrow. It's going to be, oh shit, I forgot about that. And here's the people that are qualified. Go ahead and take a look, because it's instant. It works 24/7. It's not thinking about picking up the twin boys, after work. It's not having to, lose sleep. I mean, it just works.
Right.
And it's not going to replace your team. It's weaponry for your recruiters, and it's also going to help you manage your workforce. And that's what we're all about. We want to ensure that you can put the right faces in the right places within your company.
Awesome. Jared, you got anything else?
No, just thanks again, Anthony, to coming on the show. We really appreciate it. It was a lot of knowledge for sure.
Yeah, and if I can be helpful to y'all, let me know. Happy to help out any way that I can. And
Same to you.
Anthony at purepost.co. I'm only on LinkedIn. Social media is bad for my head, so that's where you're gonna find me.
Awesome. Well, best of luck to you. If we can do anything for you as well, you let us know.
Yes, sir.
All
Thank
right.
you all.
Thank you, Anthony.
Welcome to the Business After Hours, where the ties loosen, the suit relax, and we talk business without the boardroom. Grab your favorite drink, kick back, and let's dive into the world of business after hours.